Thank you. My staff suggested earlier today that I postpone the press conference a bit until Granger finishes his interview, because he's been doing quite a few, so I could get a chance to respond to him. But I said to them, we shouldn't really do that because we already know what he's going to say. His speeches are so predictable. And at an earlier point in time, I had mentioned that every time he speaks to the media, which has been more frequent in the past few months than he had spoken to them in the entire tenure of being president, that people will see why we need to change his government, that he is the best advocate for change in the government. Because when you listen to him, and when I do, something comes to mind for me. It's like a dissociative disorder. It's where reality doesn't factor much in the things that he says. And it is something that I'm sure people across Ghana by now would have recognized. So I was just looking, in fact, I got the transcript. I couldn't suffer through the interview, but I got a transcript of the last one he did. And again, these characteristic traits came to the fore. So when asked, why should people re-elect you? He said, three reasons. We were busy the last year with a no confidence vote, which is nonsense. What happened? The decline started from the first day in office. In fact, and agreed when they took, after 6 weeks in office, a 50% increase in their salaries for ministers. Secondly, he said, because we have made phenomenal achievements, basically. But you know the reality of Guyana. High taxes, people lost jobs, there's an era of hopelessness, crime, other things are rampant. None of what he thinks is happening is really happening on the ground. And then thirdly, he mentioned, oh, I have to be there because I declared from 2020 to 2029, the decade of development, because he made a declaration that that will be the decade of development. No policy to achieve that, no plan to achieve that, not an iota of a strategy to achieve this decade of development. But I have declared that it shall be a decade of development. You know, like the typical army thing, you pass down an order and development will happen. Secondly, he said in that context, we have a green state strategy. Now the green state strategy, we all know, it's an absolute waste of time. It is just declaration of intent grouped together, no plan there. And then he says, we have a national development plan. Well, if they do have one, it's a well-kept secret because Guyanese don't know about this. So this just shows you how aloof, again, how distant he is from the reality of what is really happening in the country and in his own government. He speaks about plans that are non-existent. He speaks about plans that are non-existent. And he believes that the people of this country must re-elect him simply because he's made certain declarations. And we are accustomed to this 11-point plan for Linden, another 11-point for hinterland development. they mention a 3-point plan for road safety, a 4-point plan for New Amsterdam development. It's just an absolute waste of time. Somebody drafts these things every time they have an issue. You're going to hear a 5-point plan to address school violence. You're going to have a 5-point plan to address school violence. You're going to have a 10-point plan maybe to address something else, any social ill in the society. So this guy simply doesn't understand the reality of Guyana. Secondly, in the same interview, he speaks about the coalition. And he says, and this is his view of the Prime Minister of Guyana. We have a totally different view. We believe the Prime Minister has to work, first of all, can't be a sinecure position just to survive at the beck and call of the President. Because the Prime Minister, we expend over $3 million, in fact, nearly $7 million at one time we calculated per month on the Prime Minister. And you can't have that as a position just sitting down and waiting for or to rubber stamp everything the President says. So he says the PM is the principal assistant to the President. In fact, the PM office is under the Presidency. There is no separate ministry for the PM. Now contrast that with how Prime Minister Samuel Hinds worked. He had a separate ministry, separate staff, he had a portfolio, he discharged the responsibility as Prime Minister as well as a minister with a substantive portfolio. It used to be mining, then energy, telecommunications, very weighty issues. You can't have a Prime Minister who's just sitting around all day waiting for the President to call him up to his office. So now, that is how he views the Prime Ministership. He views also loyalty to ministers above everything else. So this tells me that should they win, should a miracle happen, we're going to see the same old bunch again in government. So what he says betrays a lot of his thinking. He says that they have fulfilled the Commingsburg Accord, that they have maintained it, they have abided by it. And the Commingsburg Accord, if you look at it, says in the first 100 days they were going to establish, but we can deal with the Prime Ministership first of all. The Prime Minister shall be responsible for domestic affairs and chairing the cabinet. That has not happened, yet they have abided by it, and now the Prime Minister is just his assistant. He said Prime Minister would have been responsible for recommending ministerial appointments and providing organizational structures of ministries for the approval of the President. That has not happened. Appointing heads of agencies and non-constitutional commissions, and domestic security. These were the 4 areas listed in the Commingsburg Accord for the Prime Minister's portfolio. Granger said they abided by the accord, but he didn't do this. On constitutional reform, he said, oh, we have changed tack now. We want to do consultations. But that's provided for in the Commingsburg Accord. It says that within 100 days they would establish the Constitutional Commission to complete consultations. Now he's saying they couldn't do it because it was not a consultative process. They had the first 100 days liberalization of the telecom and ICT sector. That has not happened up to now. They had development and implementation of a sustained national crime prevention plan in 100 days after the government. Now until now, they don't have a plan to tackle crime. They were supposed in the first 100 days to adopt a long-term sustainable economic development plan. We have not seen that. So the reality of what Granger says is in fact, the reality is very different from what he says in these speeches now. I'm not sure that if it is, as I said before, dissociative amnesia that he is suffering from, or it's a political ploy because he has nothing to campaign on. Because they broke all of the promises. They broke every single one of these promises. But either way, the people of this country getting shafted. That's it. Either way. And so what bothers me most, though, is that he's not pressed on issues. So, for example, at these interviews, I don't know if there is an agreement between him and the people who are doing the interview that they can't ask him tough questions or they have to clear their questions. But I think that's more like it. But he makes these outrageous statements without someone saying, hold on a minute. Let me take out what you promised, your Cummingsburg Accord. You just said you abided by it. Here are the things that in the Accord. How can you come and tell us today that you've abided by the Cummingsburg Accord and this is what you signed on to? Nobody questions that. So he's allowed free rein to get away with all sorts of inaccuracies without being pressed by the media. So, for example, he says, oh, they need constitutional reform because the ministers, when his minister of communities goes out, some regional chair don't cooperate with the minister and they don't come to see the president when he visits the region. So that is one of his reasons for constitutional reform in that interview. I was shocked to see that. There were many times as president I went out that people from the region, APNU areas, did not come to the meetings. We didn't need to change the constitution to direct people to go, but this is the president who cannot resolve for 5 years nearly the undermining of elected bodies by his appointees. Look at Region 5. The REO there, who reports to the Ministry of Finance and to the government, has broken up almost every meeting. The business of the region can't be conducted. But he wants the same regional chairman who can't do the people's business to now go and pay homage to him when he arrives in Region 5, or to go to these functions with the minister, to rub shoulders with the ministers. So again, aloof behavior. They talk about sugar, but I want to deal with in the same vein about sugar, because I see a lot of questions being asked about it. So recently they got Lincoln Lewis, because Irfan Ali and the PPP, we said we are reopening the sugar estates. Suddenly people wanted to see their plans. They want to hear the entire group aligned against us, and they've rolled out not only Granger but Lincoln Lewis and the others to talk about this, about how it's not workable. Well, people like Lincoln Lewis cannot speak about anything. Every industry a person like Lincoln Lewis has been linked to has ended up in trouble. The TUC on finances, when he was with the Caribbean body, there were problems with the finances. When he was with the OMI, he took help from the company and sold out the workers. I witnessed the bauxite workers chasing him from a meeting. And he's never really run anything. To get Lincoln Lewis to tell you about sound economic or management practices is really a far stretch. So imagine I saw another one of the parties saying that has benefited from billions in concessions, saying the sugar plan, oh, these workers must not get any help. They're earning $75,000 a month, but they can rake in billions in concessions, and we must not look after those workers. And the same sugar plan, nobody said to Granger, in the same interview, when they asked him about sugar, and he said, oh, Jagdeo, disaster at Skelton. That was done out of a feasibility study. He said people don't want to buy their estates, but they're selling off the scrap at many places and the assets without telling us and to cronies. And it's not because people don't want to buy their estates. It's just they don't want to invest now in Guyana with this bunch of incompetent people running the show and demanding a bribe for everything. Clive Thomas himself spoke about the possibility of cogen. So the interviewer should have said, he mentioned his commission of inquiry. His commission of inquiry that he did said no closure of any estate. Imagine he handpicked 10 persons, put them together to say what's the way forward, and paid 70-odd million Ghana dollars to them to do this study. They came back with a study saying no closure of any estate, and then a week later, vindictively, he decided to discard this study, said it's not gospel, those are his own words, and close Wales. It's vindictive behavior. We argued for an economic feasibility study. This is not a financial feasibility study. This is about people's lives, the contribution to the economy. And if he understood that concept, he'd understand why sugar is still viable from an economic perspective and not necessarily from a financial perspective, because of the multiple benefits that are associated with sugar, from the linkages to the taxes, to the NIS, to the drainage and irrigation services, which still have to be funded. And had they done the economic feasibility study that we had asked for, you would have seen that the cost of closure is greater than keeping sugar going, even with the transitional subsidy. But they don't make these decisions. You remember, they said the same thing about the Marriott, that the Marriott was going to turn into a hospital. Now they're just living there practically. Everything they embrace, all of these. It's a lack of vision. And some hustlers who now think they can come into the political arena and make their name on these wild statements about sugar workers. Why do workers always have to bear the brunt of these decisions? So we can't spend a few $1 million in subsidy, transitional subsidy to the sugar workers to get 11,000 people back working and feeding their families. But we can spend billions on ministerial outreach and on dietary and rental and per diem for ministers and higher salaries. But you can't spend it on the 11,000 workers. That's where the priority is. So I wonder when everybody wants to hear detailed plans from the PPP, but they allow these people to make some of the most outrageous suggestions without challenging him. So he gets a free pass everywhere. Every single time he goes on these interviews, it's benign. Oh, Mr. President, how are you doing today? Your smile is bright today, and all of that stuff. And they don't tackle him on the tough issues. And if you tackle him on the tough issues, you will see how vacuous his answers are and his policies are. You will see that. But nobody pushes them to talk about the people who are losing their jobs. They don't press him on. I hope they will press him on why he's dismantling now the staff at Foreign Affairs because of vindictiveness, removing people there with the lame excuse that some people have been abroad for 20 years. I don't think you have more than 2 ambassadors or so who have been abroad for that long. But that's the new excuse. And oh, they want to put some young people in now. Now they know they want to put young people. Trust me, their young is like already 60 something. That's their young. That's how we define. When they say young, that's what they mean. So don't worry about this. It's all an election ploy. But dismantling their place there. They should, Granger himself, now he intervenes in the army. Even at a junior level, I heard he stopped a promotion just yesterday at a junior level, vindictively so. Nobody presses him on this sort of thing, demoralizing the army because they've moved away from a professional management of these bodies to daily interference, acts of interference into the security services, telling them what to do, who to promote, who to give contracts to, etc. And so he has to be challenged. And I do hope that this one here, the new interview he's doing, because he needs people now, and so he has to go out again, that somebody would actually challenge him to explain things, not just to go to do these like interviews that hardly mean much. So I just wanted to tackle a couple of things. I mentioned the foreign affairs, and this requires the truth to come out. Is it true that they're undermining our position with Venezuela simply because they want to trade or to get a position at the UN? Is it true? I notice no real answer has come out about that. Is that true? And that would be a big problem for us in the People's Progressive Party. Because if staff don't feel that they can defend the national interest, then they're going to be, and there's never been an issue with that at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The defense of our national interest is supreme. Not one, the defense of an interest, the interest of a connected individual. And that is what seems to be playing out here. The police, since the last time I spoke and I urged an investigation, I've been privy to some information. I heard that the police has set up a body to investigate some of these issues that are taking place in the senior leadership. But it's an internal audit. And we can't, I'm almost convinced that the people they're putting to do the internal audits would cover it up. So I want to make them ensure that they all know that we have the documents. We have the documents. So there is an individual, let me give you so that they know that I'm speaking the truth, so that when they're doing that audit, they will stay professional, that there are 5 invoices for one individual, a king, on the invoices, they left the hours that the person worked blank. And each of these 5 invoices for different days were all valued at $246,000. So 5 invoices, each at $246,000. Now, for different things. So is that a coincidence? No. Because if they pay this will be over $1 million. 4 of these invoices could have disappeared. And then since they're issued on the same day, but for different days of activity, then you would believe that it's one invoice, all at for $246,000, all 5. There's 7 invoices to 2 entities, every one of them issued for $198,500. All of them the exact same figure. And so this is important for us. I'm just saying this here because I know what's going on internally. And I want them to know that if they don't do a professional job, because the people who did this sort of thing, the shenanigans, are well connected to the Ministry of the Presidency. There's an attempted cover-up there. And so we will not tolerate it. And I think the Auditor General should really be doing this audit. They should call in the Auditor General. There are lots of other things that I heard about, the sale of precepts to foreigners. So a lot of foreigners are roaming around the interior with guns and stuff like that. And they have these precepts saying that they belong to a guard service, so that their names are listed there and they're eligible to carry the weapons. And there is a big racket for selling the precepts to a lot of foreigners. They also, well, we know about the regular sale that Ramjatan's business, about the sale of gun licenses. Regular, that happens, that's a normal thing. I'm just telling you new discoveries now. And you notice we posted a bank in New York, in Valley Stream, Capital One. And we put that on our party page, that an account by a minister was established there in 2016. And over $5 million US passed through that account. The government has gone quiet on it, but it's easy if they want to find out. They can easily ask the FIU, and they will know whether what we are saying is true or not. But to get $5 million US passing through your account, established in 2016, and we give the name, the branch of the bank, where it's located, and the name of the bank. So it's easy for them to check and say, it's not true. But we intend to check it carefully as soon as the government changes, because it's verified information. I know the Lands and Survey is a criminal enterprise too. Let me come back to that. Mr. Ben and the others run a criminal enterprise over there, and that is high on the agenda for a criminal probe of what's going on there. So I see he is in Chronicle saying, he is now rebuilding the Land Commission. He is not really rebuilding the Land Commission. He's just engaged in a number of activities that are not, let me say it mildly, not in the terms of reference of the head of that community. I saw also the issue with Trotman making retroactive mining regulations. Now these are caretaker ministers, not even caretaker, illegal ministers, signing regulations like they have normal powers. Elections are already called. But making it retroactive to January, and I noticed that the closed areas are part of this too. So I want to know who are getting the land in the closed areas. So we're going to be looking into this carefully. And SOCU, imagine SOCU was set up to come after go after the drug dealers. They sent them after the PPP. And now we hear that the SOCU, instead of doing investigation, was busy fetching away the gold and everything else. But it's not there. Ramjatan should be investigated too. He had a close link to SOCU. It's not just at that level. I think Ramjatan knows what was going on from the beginning. I think he might even be a part of it. So we would have a lot of scapegoats at the lower level, but we need to go after the political bosses too, the people who've been speaking for SOCU all along, because they knew this issue was going. I just want to say that I saw Granger's 3-point plan on the accidents and stuff. This is not a political issue. We have to work, everyone, at this matter. Government, opposition, etc. There's a carnage on our roads, and we have to find a way of stopping it. We don't have all the answers, and I'm sure they don't too. And it's tough It's a combination of education, strong regulations, taking tough action, and people have to take responsibility too. People have to take personal responsibility for these issues. Because sometimes it's not even, you have one crazy person who, a family, an entire family could just be driving home, going about their business, or people in a bus going home, and then one crazy person, you know, just goes out of control. They drink, or they speed, and then they cause the deaths of so many others. So it's not a political issue, and any party that says to you they can stop this will be lying to you. Any political party that says this. And the answers lie with working together with people and tougher positions on this. So this is an important issue. School violence is another one of those issues that we should not politicize too much. Violence in the school. These are our kids. We have to find a way of ensuring, not draconian measures like taking away their parties or something like that, but finding a way of ensuring that these activities are done in a manner that they're set up for, that you don't have excesses, not to take away things from our kids. You know, that's part of us growing up. School parties and stuff like that. We all have fun memories of these things growing up. It's part of the Guyanese culture. And so we must, whilst we have to ensure that you don't have excesses there, and maybe through stronger supervision, but you can't, you just can't take things away from people. I don't know, I heard also that the police and the army activities at the end of the year would be canceled. And that was a great opportunity for people to socialize, etc. I don't know what the real reasons are, but I hope that should not happen. And the burden of carrying these activities must not be on the soldiers or policemen, etc., because you've already taken away their 1 month tax-free bonus for December. So the state has a responsibility to ensure that these issues don't materialize. I want to just deal a few minutes with the manifesto, because we're the only party now that has launched some of the ideas from our manifesto. We're widely distributing these ideas, right, on social media, on television, and also in the communities. We're trying to take these ideas to almost every community and to every home, because we want people to start discussing, debating these issues. No other party now has any idea out there about what they're doing in the future. They just make a couple of statements, so you can hear them about for everything under the sun, but nothing akin to a manifesto. So it was, I was very surprised, well, not surprised. It was very, not along Harman's line, to see his comments. Harman talking about the PPP manifesto is a plan for poverty. And clearly, he said he had an advanced copy. I don't know, maybe we shared it with him, an advanced copy. But Harman cannot be serious. If anything is akin to a plan for poverty. It's what they're implementing now. So they are running down all of our reserves. Almost every entity that they've touched is going bankrupt. Last time I pointed out GWI, GPL, Lands and Survey, the NFMU, not NFMU, the Housing Fund, the Forestry Commission, the Mining Commission. I can go on, a long list of entities. They're running down our reserves, they're borrowing more, taxing people, or people are losing jobs, crime is rampant, the drugs shortages in the hospital. That's it. At a time when we should be looking to the future with optimism. That is what they're implementing. Our plans are to reverse this. So they push more people into poverty when they put VAT on a whole range of issues. And I don't know, we allow Granger to get rid of this. Oh, I dropped the VAT rate. Somebody needs to say to him that you've extended VAT to water and electricity and everything else. So our point is that if you go through the measures, you will see a strong set of anti-poverty measures in the budget, directly so. Not just the restoration of the grant, the 10,000, but an increase of the grant. And we said over time we want to get that to 50,000 per child. That's something they took away. So, and we made an affirmative promise to restore the pensioners' water subsidy, their free water. Now, on the quarantine in many parts of this country, I saw on social media that they have a disconnection campaign. A lot of the pensioners who wouldn't have had to pay for water now simply had their water disconnected by GWI because they can't afford a 3,000 or 4,000 bill. In some cases, it's even more. And so that is a clear indication. There are hundreds of measures, literally. We promise to reverse the 200 taxes and the fee increases that they put for almost every service. We're going to reverse those. So every service that you've had to pay higher for, going to be reversing. Removing the VAT on airline travel into the hinterland and freight will reduce cost of living there. Removing VAT from water and electricity will do the same. Removing VAT from medicines means that you can buy cheaper medicine. These are specific things that were there before, that they changed, made it harder, and we are returning them to the people of this country. So when a person like Harman, who now is living the good life, you know, people are walking in with bags of money, giving them bags of money, 20 million for the Sheriff Street Road and stuff like that. Bags of money go in there to them. They are not concerned about this anymore. Not concerned about this. And then we have also outlined in this document a clear path to job creation, etc. A clear path to job creation. Directly so, with our investments back in the sugar and with the reorientation of the public service spending. At least 20,000 of the 50,000 jobs could be created in the first 6 months of the new government. At least 20,000, with reorienting the just public expenditure and going back to restoring the estates and the multiplier effect of that spending. At least 20,000, because we've calculated, and that's within the first 6 months, with the first year of the 5 years. So we, and then with us, if you look at the subsidiary plans, the other plans, and the potential for open up back investment there, also the increase in disposable income. If people can spend more, this is where they're at. If this part of the taxes that they're paying to government remains in their pocket, and they can spend more, we're expecting all of those businesses that were doing retail trade, that had to send home their staff, their tens of thousands of people. When I say 30,000 lost their jobs, that's conservative. That's conservative. When all of those people who had to send home staff because of sales, that will increase again because of disposable income. It's no rocket science. It's not rocket science. If we find markets for our lumber and to remove some of the burden and assist the people, say in Region 10, a lot of those forest-based communities can go back to work. Thousands who have lost their jobs. The small miners, with our policies here to reverse a lot of the taxes on machinery and equipment and go back to the 2% final tax, etc., will stimulate job creation in those areas. This is apart from the new sectors. There are lots of new sectors. I'm telling you, just shifting the policy focus back in relation to the productive sectors. That's why we put rescue in the productive sectors. Can put a great deal of people back to work. And so they ask, oh, the 50,000. I believe it's conservatively estimated. I believe it's conservatively estimated. So people want to know how you see the policy measures in the manifesto. The policy measures are consistent with the goal, not, promising the people in Linden to make blocks. The last election, they said, oh, we're going to do more block making to support the housing program, and then put a VAT on blocks. You know what blocks I mean, the concrete blocks. That is what they did. Everything is inconsistent. You check for policy consistency in the excerpts from our manifesto. Goal and policies to support them. Goal and policies to support them. We want a lower crime rate, and here are some of the things we will do. Specific things, and then there are broader things. We've outlined, and these are just few of our plans, because they're just excerpts in different areas. And we've outlined some critical issues on things like constitutional reform now. Are we going to be discussing power sharing as a part of the constitutional reform in the future? The answer will be yes, that good governance model. 2, are you going to be discussing how we manage GCOM to avoid this contention? The answer is yes. Will there be campaign finance laws? Yes. The answer is yes. How are you going to involve NGOs? They're going to be involved with all of these in a non-partisan way, the two parties, to address suicide and prison reform and all of these things that we mentioned before. And some like accidents, and those things that require bipartisan support that should really not be politicized. On the oil and gas sector, we made it clear we want a national approach to the matter. Whether it will happen, I don't know, but we are going to try as far as possible to have a national approach to the matter, and we want to involve civil society in a permanent way to monitor compliance with our agreements. Monitor compliance with our agreements. These are critical, if you look at the critical answers that have been given in these areas. So no other party has really defined how they're going to approach these matters. All you hear are little pieces there. And so I wouldn't be surprised that Harman wants to take this entire thing. They said we're copying their manifesto. So, Patterson said, they're building roads. They copied our manifesto as though we must not build roads in the future. The difference between building roads is that Sticky Finger will not be able to implement them, and 20% of the money would now have to go to his ministry or to him. That's the difference. That is the difference. And we're not going to tell people we paved the Linden to Lethem Road and put out a picture of it when it hasn't been done. And this guy is shameless. He is implementing almost every PPP project he implements. The Sheriff Street Road, the East Coast Road, the East Bank Road, the airport, the West Coast Road. He has not even used the money we left for the bypass. And he talks about his great vision. They've done actually very little. So he says we copy their manifesto, what they're doing, because we promise to build new roads. Every party has to promise to fix the infrastructure, and we have an entire infrastructure development plan. For each of the region, you're going to see a practical plan rolled out for job creation in the first instance, etc. And for housing development. You know, they're hurriedly giving out a couple of house lots now, letters of allocation. They haven't put in any infrastructure in these areas, but now they're caught with coming to election, so they're busy handing out some letters of allocation. I see the Ferguson, the one who took 3 lots there on the East Bank, would not say a word about it. The corrupt Ferguson. And I'm calling her that so she can sue me if she wants to. So she said they gave out 550 lots. In some of the areas where they, from what I gather, they're giving out lots, they sold the land already. NISIL is selling off the land so that they're giving out to people. So I anticipate this is the usual three-card game with APNU. Promise one thing, and after the elections, should they win, should they, again, far stretch, then they can easily say to people, oh, really, those are just letters of allocation. You know, we would have to find something else for you. It's another con game, because they're rushing to do all of these things, you know, hand out their stuff now. We're approaching elections. But I gather, particularly in the East Coast, that the land has already been sold. There's no provision for infrastructure, and people should not give her any money to, or the staff there, because it's a corrupt practice. When they give out, say they give out 550 lots, the cronies pull in, rake in a big part of it. A big part of it, the cronies. It would be another thing like what we have at GRA, where 300 vehicles were given to ministers and their families, etc. And we were basically given to them, because paying $250,000 for a vehicle is like giving away a vehicle. And now we can't get the information from there. So you're going to see later when this is revealed. But our manifesto is quite clear. It says what we're going to do about local government, international, what our focus would be in international arena. They talk about foreign ministry and its success now. I saw somebody writing this silliness in the Chronicle. We had the biggest economic diplomacy that we've had practiced through was to get an agreement with Norway that saw the sale of forest carbon. We collected $200 million US. That's economic diplomacy. This president goes around, he goes to India, he says Solar Alliance, he goes to Brazil, Water Alliance, something like that. It's a waste of time. They're not focused on economic diplomacy. And the border issues have been non-contentious, so that's bipartisan. But in other areas, they've been an abject failure. In the climate talks, Guyana doesn't have a profile anymore. When in that period, people quoted us, Prince Charles, the Clintons, etc. When we went to a meeting, they would talk about the Guyana model. These are people from the international community. We are now saying that we had a profile. Now that's all gone. We have secret negotiations to trade our position at the UN with Venezuela now. That is what the foreign ministry has come to. And we're just spending a lot more money doing that, doing very, very little. I would urge people to just see that what we've said already about electricity, daily blackouts. You know, when Granger was asked about, in the interview about blackouts, he said it's not easy thing to fix. Even Barbados has blackouts for 2-3 days now, as though we must set our standard by Barbados. That's what this guy says in the interview. You remember in 2015, they put out a thing how they end flooding in Guyana and blackouts. And now they don't have a plan. He said, oh, we didn't import fuel. The issues are more structural and more long-term than just the fuel. The fuel issue, we can sort that out in a matter of weeks. But they have not had a structured approach to the provision of power and cheaper power to Guyana. Because Patterson couldn't make much money there, so that was a low priority area for him, actually, but they did make some money. I'll tell you about that another time. So these are just some of the issues about workers' welfare. We plan to reestablish a Ministry of Labor, which they have done, but not to mean incremental to the 27 that they have increased to from 17 to 27, where it would be part of that. So we're not growing government. In fact, government will be smaller. A lot of the perks that ministers get, some of the perks they get, will also be cut as part of the process of saving money to redirect it to other priority areas for people. And on the young people, this is crucial for us, the mainstreaming of youth into government. That's why you have to have a presidential youth commission working directly with the president for people, young people all across the country, that he meets with regularly to talk about key issues, jobs, education, housing, etc. But we also have a lot of stuff like for example, in each region, we want to build a premium health, cultural, sporting center that would allow that region to conduct multiple activities. So it's like a combination of the sports hall and the cultural center in each region, so that you can stimulate cultural and sporting activities in all of the regions. This is apart from the national infrastructure that we plan to put in place. And for the entertainers and all of those people who have had, we're also going to make a significant reverse what they have done. Like, so they're going to get more concessions for recording studios and a whole range of stuff. Jobs in the entertainment sector. It starts with the removal of the 2 a.m. curfew. It starts with that. But in this manifesto, we're talking about a suite of concessions for those types of activities. They've practically killed this, and now the government has set up a promotion arm competing with others. Of course, they're not the government. You have a couple of the youth leaders, 2 of them particularly, who are part of a promotion group now. And it's a corrupt activity. What they do, they build the government. They call them outreaches or something like Meet the People tour, or one time Defend Your Government, like from the No Confidence that they held at Parade Ground. So they will send over a huge bill to the government, and they will pay the artists and the others a pittance, and they make a ton of money. So they're now even doing this in New Amsterdam, I heard, displacing people there. So it is a couple of government individuals. I'm going to get somebody to call their names a little bit later. I don't want to contaminate my press conference, although I called a lot of names already. So it's a racket. It's a racket, or even that, even displacing on promotion of activities like shows and stuff. They're making some money on this too. So a lot of those things will change. Look at some of the others. ICT. We plan to go back to the one laptop per family. Any poor family that doesn't have a computer must get a computer. Must get a computer. Every poor family. We have to go back to social bandwidth. They have to be able to either subsidize bandwidth to those families or to provide free bandwidth. We want every Guyanese home to be connected to the internet. That allows a revolution in healthcare, education, because we can get directly into the home and other government services. We want people, every Guyanese, from the grandparents to the kids, to be computer literate. That was our dream when we started that project. Because we must be the most computer literate country in the world. One of the reasons, ways we were going to achieve that, we said if you got a free computer from the government, you had to make one promise. You don't pay for the computer, but you have to give us 50 hours of voluntary time to teach others. So you get a free computer, we want you to teach people in the family or the villages. And it changes people's lives. Just imagine the grandparents, etc. We have diaspora, can go online on Facebook or wherever else, FaceTime, and talk to people, their relatives abroad. It improves the quality of life of a lot of people who might not, be isolated, and if they get access to information. So we're looking at that, and that's one way we not only promise free education at university within the 5 years, because we did the assessment and we can't afford it from year one. And we're not going to make any promise that we can't do. So like they promised the last time and they increased the fees, but we definitely have it within the 5 years. But we also want to promise those students who already have a loan, an outstanding loan, that they must have a pathway to getting the loans written off to. So we were thinking about a menu of ways how this could happen. For example, if you finish university, you have a loan, then if you volunteer some time of your time, maybe 4 months, 6 months of your time, to teach, say, others about use of computers or any subject, classroom, then you get your loan written off. If you're working in the public service and you have the loan, then maybe in the after hours, you spend like 2 hours in the evening doing something else, like for a period of 4 or 5 months, and that's your pathway to get your loan written off. So people they can choose that pathway, and with some effort, maybe on their part, so the state gets back some service from people, and they get their loans written off. And so these are things that we're thinking about. I've already mentioned about the tax-free status we will give to private education from nursery all the way to university. The same thing for the health sector providers, that they will, the labs and all of the others who are working and are incorporated in companies, they can have a tax-free service or a hospital. And we expect in return better quality healthcare to our people. That allows us to focus on improving public education and public healthcare too. So both sides, you have people contributing. You get a contribution from the private side, major investments, etc., as well as from the public health system. So there are lots and lots of things in the manifesto that we have outlined, and an approach that we want to use in almost every sector to get these sectors going again. And we have, the good thing is that we have the experience at doing this. It's not like we're starting like this bunch or Green. We've done this for a while. We know we have people who have negotiated loans, who have negotiated a grant, who can craft a policy, who can implement a policy, like almost from the first day. We don't have to wait for ages. So I would urge, I spent some time on the manifesto to say the others can't, they can't. What would the PNC say now, APNU say now that it's going to do? You can't go back to make the promises of 2050. You haven't implemented any. What are they going to say they're going to do? That's why they're in a dilemma. And you can't take some of the other parties seriously, you know, because they're not going to be government. So that is why but I want people to read, understand, and please, if you want more explanation, this is like more of a summary, it's excerpt. So if you want more explanation, we can, each of these areas, we have more extensive explanations on all of them, which we couldn't put here. So somebody asked saying, oh, can you explain some issue? The PBP didn't only said that, say 50,000 jobs. We can go through that. That's pure. Like I just pointed out some ideas. The thing is, and we are aware where our policies will take us. What sort of investment response you will have because of concessions. We've done that before. So I urge people to just read it carefully, and then call us if you need. Drop in here at the office. Please come in and you'll get more explanations about any area that you wish to have explanation for. Thank you.
Mr. Jagdeo, Norway's petroleum directorate, they make their crude development plans public. And Kaiser News has heard from 3 industry experts and analysts that we should do the same. Are you in agreement with that?
If we're gonna, I'm sure that all of those things can be part of the transparency arrangement, the development plans, etc. But the structure that we plan to use is we'll have civil society sitting at the center of compliance. You know, so when they develop a plan, reviewing the plan and also ensuring compliance. So those documents are not going to be in the preserve of some ministry alone. They will be available to a broad cross-section.
Okay. Minister Trotman, he was in an interview with Kaiser News, and he said that in the early stages of government's management of the oil sector, it was too secretive. But he also said that the president had reached out to the opposition in the early stages to form some bilateral committees and so on for the development and management of the sector. Did you see what was your response to those requests?
Did Trotman actually say that? Trotman has a capacity to, anyhow, let me deal with Trotman. So that's wholly untrue. The thing is that it was not just, I saw Trotman. The only thing I saw from the interview is him saying they could have done a better job. But really, he thinks this is his like walking down the road and maybe going to the market and buying mangoes at $5 and going back home and somebody said, you should have paid $3 for the mangoes, and then he admits that this could be a better job. It's not like that. This here is billions of dollars. Because they didn't do a good job, we will lose billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. And they were forewarned. If you listen to our positions before the negotiations, we were saying hire the best technical skills. Hire the best technical skills in the world, because now we have oil. Discovered it just as we were exiting. Now we have the oil here. It's proven reserves. Your bargaining power shoots up, because now it was unlike the past when you didn't have oil. You have to pet people along to continue their investments because they don't know whether they're fine. It's just expenditure. Now you have the oil, your bargaining power goes up. Get the best people in the room. What happened? They didn't have a negotiating brief going into that room. I would like to see it. 2, who are the people who renegotiated? Not the best lawyers in the world or the petroleum economists, etc. A few people, until now I'm not clear how many people were in that room and whether Trotman was there. And then thirdly, to agree to something like that, when I believe it was Exxon's first proposal on the table, is not, it's criminal. It's not a mistake, it's criminal. And to burden us with this. And that was a mistake. Oh, we could have done better. But you know, Jagdeo them didn't want to participate. Whether we participated or not, that's not an excuse for doing a good job. That's an excuse for doing a good job. And when we urge, get the best people in the room, the best lawyers, etc. So that everything is about the PPP now. Oh, they didn't participate, so we did a bad agreement. And this is what you find from the government. Everything it's about, oh, PPP. Well, if you're so concerned, well, we will take back the country soon, you know, and then you can complain. They worry everything it's about the PPP. And then run it for all of our people. That is what, if you can't, everything is about us and what we did and what we wouldn't do, etc. So this is the thing. They don't have any independent mind. They don't have intelligence. They don't know they have to defend national interests. You have a bargaining tool now that we didn't have. 3 billion barrels of proven reserves. I'm walking into this room, I'm elated now because I have something to trade. Before that, I had nothing. You're just going in there, the other side saying all the time, oh, we are spending 100 million on exploration. We're not getting anything. You all got to give on the other side. We're just waiting. Yeah, please continue the exploration. The moment you find the oil, you shift the bargaining tool. So my point is that the approach, etc., from Granger, and I don't specifically recall. I don't think it was part of that courtesy call I had, because he said, oh, can we talk about a few things? And I said to him, when you're done with the corruption investigation, why don't you go complete that? And then lock up who you have to lock up for all the corrupt people in the PPP, because that was their mantra. Then we'll be prepared to talk about the other sectors. But here are two things that I can promise you now. One is that you will have our full support on the border. That's not dependent on anything. And two, we are prepared to give you a full briefing on all the outstanding cases against individuals, because it runs into billions of dollars and we don't want the Treasury to lose. So we had a case against GT&T. We had a case against BK for the wharf. We had a case against Badal for stock feed. You had cases on the environmental tax, a whole range of cases. DDL, had they acceded to our request at that time and gotten a brief, we would not have signed agreements settling these matters totaling near probably $90 billion. You know what's $90 billion? That's a year and a half or maybe 2 years of oil money. And that's what they did. If you see the total settlement in 23 years of the PPP, where we settled cases, where we had a challenge with government, and it would not amount to more than $2 billion. If all 23 years. In 4 other years, they've settled cases worth over close to $90 billion. And they did not have to settle many of these cases. They just did it because many of the people are cronies. And so we promised that. That's what I promised specifically. I said these 2 areas, we're prepared to share with you a full brief. I can have somebody come and brief the Attorney General about these cases. And secondly, on our sovereignty, you have our full support. On other things, because he had some issues like agriculture or something like that, I said, that can all await. This was the first courtesy call I paid on him. That can await once you finish your investigations and stuff. Right? But we promised that. They didn't take up our advice. They didn't get in. Because they didn't want to get the briefing. Those cases we could have won. We believe we could have won. We had truncated. Some of the cases, they never even appealed. They settled on the basis of a letter. Haig Bosch. They didn't appeal the one with Badal. We won the case. To get back the 38%, the 30% shares that he had diluted. We won that case. That runs into billions of dollars, the stock fee share. Badal went, he won the case. We didn't contest it properly. They didn't appeal it. So he got billions in benefit. And this is what this story of cronyism and corruption started almost immediately when this government took office. Their entire purpose, they took the $1 million per ministers, increased their own salary, all their concessions, then they moved to settle tons of these things for money. And that's why we're stuck with that situation. People don't recall these things. And our approach was, we will share with you. We'll share. Never mind we're opposition. We don't want the state to lose these cases. So don't let Trotman come now, oh, I want forgiveness. You know, they believe this thing is about, and good Christians should forgive people, but not the incompetence. You forgive the transgressions on other things, but not this incompetence that would destroy partly our future and how much money we're getting. You can't forgive that. Or you may forgive, but not vote again for them. You know, you can forgive it.
Post-discovery to, say, 2017, how frequent were your engagements with Exxon and its partners? Because Trotman also said that he had asked them to reach out to...
Totally since 2015, I probably met with them maybe 4 or 5 times. Okay. 4 or 5 times. Maybe 5 times or so. So that means like a meeting per year, or meeting every 6-8 months. Not like regular engagement with us. Okay. And it's mainly courtesy call. Like the first one I recall, when we were making a determination on the gas. So I asked the Exxon team that came, I said, has any study been done about the incremental value that we're going to get from pumping the gas back into the wells, because it would extend the life of the well, and therefore you'd get a few more barrels of oil. So did we calculate that versus bringing all the gas onshore to do other value-added activities, and there, like Trinidad does. And therefore, when we compare the two, we make a decision. There's been no such study. So those are the kinds of things that probing questions we were asking, because we understand the concept of maximizing value to Guyana and our people. We understand that concept. I remember him saying, one time, Trotman, when defending this small amount, oh, we didn't ask for a lot of money. In any case, we can't implement these things. You know, we can't implement projects. They don't have that concept of maximizing value to Guyana and Guyanese. If you understand that concept, it should permeate the entire negotiation. You're there to defend your interests when you sit on the other one side of the table, Guyana's interest. The other side is to negotiate the best deal for their shareholders. The best deal for their shareholders. You start making excuses for them, then you're already weakening your negotiating position. When you start at midpoint and not at your maximum demand, you're shafting your own negotiating strategy. This is unbelievable. Somebody got to write about this in the future, maybe when I retire.
I get that it's not right for a government official to say, oh, we didn't get a good deal because the opposition didn't cooperate with us. That's fair. But my question was more of a skepticism of you just saying a few minutes ago that you're interested in power sharing and now giving me reasons why you refuse to perhaps cooperate.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying I don't think that it was part of the first approach. I don't recall that there was any structured engagement to have us be part of the negotiating team. We didn't even know about the negotiations. We didn't even know about the contract. So I'm wondering now, how come, I would like to see how come we were told about it and we were the ones fighting to say, can we see the contract too? If we were invited to be part of the team, we didn't even know. It's another one of Trotman's lies. Another one of Trotman's lies. Let me get some others first, and then we come to you. Anyone? Oh, okay, all right. So,
one final question.
All right, sure.
What is your vision for an oil-rich Guyana when we get it right? Where do you see this country?
A vision for oil-rich Guyana?
Yeah.
All of our people wealthy. That's it, simply. If we wealthy, stable, a society where no crime, every one of us could shop at the highest end stores, the malls and everything else. You have good leisure. People go abroad and take their family on vacation. People coming to our country, living here, living the real good life, not the fake one like Abnu. That is what we hope to achieve. And it's achievable if we manage not just oil. Oil is a wasting resource, our entire asset properly. It's achievable. A vision like that. You know, all of our people are doing well from one end of the country to the other end. And they're all, you know, we're getting the best quality education, healthcare. We are ranking like in the standards with the OECD and maths tests and English tests. They're big vision for the country. Thanks. Thank you.